Hi, my name's Chris Jones at HMI. I'm Specialist Advisor for Apprenticeships for Ofsted.
Chris, can we talk about what best practices have you seen across the sector, and how can this be helpful to providers, to employer providers, to colleges?
That's a great question. For me, what I'd really like to talk about in terms of effective practice is around initial assessment. I get asked all the time about what makes a really good initial assessment. Essentially, it's about not concentrating solely on English and mathematics. Yes, it's important to know their English and mathematical skills so that you can judge which level of functional skills or GCSE you're going to put the learners or apprentices on. But in apprenticeships, what we're really concerned about is what apprentices bring to the table at the start of their apprenticeship. What knowledge, skills and behaviours do they have already that may or may not help you to make a decision about whether they're going to do the apprenticeship, whether the apprenticeship is the right route for them. I often think about the management apprentice who's been a manager for 4 or 5 years and is doing an apprenticeship. And I suppose the question that I would ask is, well, what is the apprenticeship going to do for them? What new knowledge are they going to learn as a result of doing that apprenticeship? So the initial assessment then is important. Where I've seen it work really well has been about being really clear about the knowledge, skills and behaviours and what they are. And obviously the provider got those from the assessment plan. So really clear about what they were. And then got the apprentice to do a skill scan, that traditional kind of thing about how confident they felt about doing certain activities, about their knowledge and that. And on inspection, I got really concerned about that because that's what I was presented with at the beginning of the inspection. And I said to the provider, look, this is a spot I am going to scratch through this apprenticeship because I'm really uncomfortable with this, because all I'm seeing is that the apprentice is really confident about this. Or, got one apprentice who's really confident, one apprentice who's not. They're on the same programme, and yet the programmes that they're doing are exactly the same. So I need to see something else. So what they said, well, that isn't everything. I said, so why haven't you shown me everything then? And then got down to the fact that what they did with that was sort of say, yes, that's how you feel now. Then they applied moderation to that. They got a subject expert involved to sort of say, well, okay, if we're looking at these set of skills here, and you're judging yourself at a 7 out of 10. Now, if it was cake baking and Mary Berry was a 10, think about yourself, that skill with Mary Berry or Lewis Hamilton as the 10s, where are you now? So enable the apprentice to put a bit more realism into that. And then what they did was to revisit that 3 weeks later, as the apprentice had gone through a programme of learning, they'd gone through induction, got to have a view of what the curriculum was looking like, what the training plan was for the apprenticeship, to then sort of say, okay, I was wrong, I need to readjust those. And it's about then having that conversation with the subject specialist, so it therefore becomes more like an interview. And the KSBs, the knowledge, skills and behaviours, became the focus of that interview. So it was more like a beefed up recruitment and selection process. And there was a closer analysis of what the apprentice could do, what they did know, and therefore what the curriculum plan for them should look like in order to make sure that they developed the knowledge, skills and behaviours they needed to pass the endpoint assessment at the end of that apprenticeship. So yeah, get that initial view, but build in and sort of make sure that there is robust analysis of what apprentices are saying that they know, can do, and how they behave, so that you're making that sort of very strong initial assessment, and from there be able to build the appropriate curriculum plan. Do that. That would seem to me to be fair, a robust initial assessment, and that should help you when it comes to looking at the structure and sequencing of the curriculum in the new inspection framework.
And is it a good idea to be looking, from what you're saying, at grading for initial assessment and then through the apprenticeship process to then actually see when someone's ready for endpoint assessment as well?
I'm not sure grading necessarily helps, but it's about the provider, the apprentice, and the employer having a really clear view about the skills that the apprentice has and which ones they need to develop in order to be effective at their job and in order to prepare themselves for the wider occupational route that they're entering. So if they are a health and social care apprentice, they're an adult care apprentice, for example, then there'll be certain levels of skills that they would need to develop. They need to know, for example, about how to support a disadvantaged adult to live and prepare for an independent life. So they need to know what the constituents were. They'd need to know about managing challenging behaviour. They'd need to develop the care and compassion to sit and talk with an adult displaying challenging behaviour and perhaps telling you the same thing 15 times over, and remaining that sense of calm and compassion to be able to support that adult to learn over time. Now that may be a skill, care and compassion may be something that's inherent within you and you demonstrate those behaviours without even thinking about it. And that may very well come through an initial assessment as something, wow, this person's really good at that and therefore a good candidate for the adult care apprenticeship. But then we'd be overlaying that over time with care and compassion, but resilience, so that you can deal with those challenging moments in a sensible, calm, detached way, and deal with that over time, over and over again. Now that's something that can only come through robust initial assessment. We know the caring and compassionate. What are the things that we need to build in the training to help them to develop the absolute behaviours that we need them to demonstrate when they have qualified and when they want to progress on from that? I think it's about having that clarity about what it is that we're looking for in terms of what they know, in terms of the skills that they need to develop and the behaviours that they need to exemplify.